She stood barefoot on the marble floor of the hospital lobby, her tiny hands clutched around a paper napkin, the only thing she had to offer. Her clothes were torn but clean, her hair tightly braided by a mother who believed in dignity, even in poverty. No one paid her any mind, just another poor girl from the neighborhood, wandering where she didn't belong. But she had eyes that carried purpose and a voice soft, yet shaking with something stronger than fear. She walked straight toward the man in the gold-trimmed wheelchair. He didn't look up from his phone. His fingers, the only part of his body still working, scrolled mindlessly. The guards watched, amused, but didn't stop her. She was harmless. Just a child. What could she do? "Excuse me, sir," she said so gently that it barely reached his ears. "I heard you give away your leftovers. Would you trade them for a miracle?" Now he looked up. A smirk broke across his face, slow, crooked, and full of mockery. Paralyzed from the chest down, Logan Wynn had built an empire from his hospital bed. He had power, wealth, and the bitter armor of a man who trusted no one. "A miracle?" he repeated, almost laughing. "You think you can trade me a miracle for soup and bread?" She nodded. He motioned her closer with a twitch of his hand. "What kind of miracle does a girl like you carry in her pocket?" She opened the napkin carefully. Inside it was a broken crayon, a folded scrap of paper, and something he didn't recognize. A tiny piece of crushed purple glass. "This was in my mother's necklace," she whispered. "She said it only glows for people who have something left to fix, not something to gain." He stared at the object. It didn't glow. But something in him, something buried under years of pain, stirred. "Listen, little one," he said, smirking again. "I've been broken longer than you've been alive. If there was a miracle left in this world, it missed me." She didn't blink. "Maybe it just didn't know where to find you." The guard snorted. "Boss, want me to get rid of her?" He shook his head. "No, let's play. What's your name?" "Ruth." "All right, Ruth, let's make a deal. You bring me a real miracle, and I'll give you anything you want, even the thing you say you can't give." He froze, because that thing, walking again, was the one word no one dared say around him. She smiled and walked away. Logan sat in his chair long after she left, the tiny piece of glass still in his palm. He didn't want to admit it, but it felt warm, just slightly. Probably nothing. Probably his imagination. Or maybe something else. A day passed, then two. On the third, he saw her again, on the hospital lawn, drawing with sidewalk chalk. The security footage showed her coming at sunrise, drawing strange symbols and patterns. She didn't ask for food. She didn't ask for attention. She just drew. And every day he watched from his window. Then something began to change. The room lights flickered every time she came near. His physical therapist noted something odd, tiny muscle spasms in his legs, the kind that hadn't happened in years. Still, Logan told no one. But one night, as he lay staring at the ceiling, the warmth returned. Not in his hand this time, in his toes. Barely there, barely real. The next morning, he rolled out to the lawn. Ruth was waiting. "You felt it, didn't you?" she asked. He said nothing. She handed him a folded note. "Tomorrow, midnight, be at the place where the stars can't see you. Bring nothing but silence." He opened the note. Inside was one word. Truth. And for the first time in 10 years, he stood. He didn't tell anyone. Not the doctors. Not the nurse who had wiped his face through months of fever. Not even the therapist who cried when he moved his finger for the first time. Logan Wynn just walked, slowly, unevenly, through the cold night air, toward a place the city had forgotten, a hollow tunnel beneath the old overpass, where the lights didn't reach, and the stars didn't dare watch. Midnight, just like she said. Ruth was already there. She wasn't drawing this time. She was waiting. Her face was half-shadowed, but her eyes glowed like two tiny lanterns. He had questions, so many, but she raised a finger to her lips and pointed to the ground. "Truth, stand still," she whispered. "Speak nothing. Think everything." So he stood, silent, barefoot, in the dark. The air was thick with dust and memory. He didn't know how long he stood there. Minutes, hours. Time didn't pass here, it folded. And then he saw it. A light, not from the sky but from the ground. It pulsed under his feet, growing brighter with each heartbeat. His mind screamed, but his body didn't move. Couldn't move. Something inside him cracked open, something older than his injury, older than his wealth, older than his name. He saw himself. Not as he was, but as he had been. A boy, alone, in a hospital hallway, crying behind a vending machine. He had waited for hours, forgotten by his father, forgotten by everyone. That night, something inside him had shut down. That was the real paralysis, and the truth struck him harder than any fall ever had. He fell to his knees. Not from pain, but from understanding. He looked up. Ruth was gone. No footprints, no echo, nothing. But his legs didn't buckle. They held. He walked home without touching his wheelchair once. The next morning, Logan sat quietly at his breakfast table. The staff panicked when they saw him standing, but he raised his hand and said 3 words he hadn't said in years. Let her in. They didn't know who he meant until Ruth appeared at the front gate. No one saw her come. No car, no bike. She just arrived, like a breeze through a locked room. She stepped inside like she'd lived there her whole life. Looked around, sat at the table across from him, then finally spoke. Do you believe now? He nodded, slowly. But who are you? She didn't smile this time. Her face grew serious. I am the reminder. The crack in the wall you pretend isn't there. I don't bring miracles. I reveal them. He leaned in, eyes searching hers. Then what did you see in me? I saw someone who had everything but forgot the only thing worth saving, himself. His hands trembled. What do I owe you? She took out the same napkin from the first day, unfolded it. The broken crayon, the scrap of paper, the crushed purple glass. Nothing, she said. You already gave it. He didn't understand until he looked at her hands. Small, pale, scarred, and then it hit him. She wasn't just a girl from the streets. She was from his past. He had seen those hands before. He had left a girl crying on a bench outside his family's mansion one rainy night. Years ago, his father had forbidden him to help. She's not one of us, he'd said. But Logan had wanted to, so badly. She never forgot that look in his eyes. The one that wanted to save her but didn't know how. I remembered you, Ruth said softly. Even when you forgot me. His voice cracked. I never meant to. She held up her hand. I know. That's why I came back. And then she vanished. This time he was sure. She didn't walk away. She disappeared. All that remained on the napkin was a single purple flame. The purple flame burned silently on the napkin. Not hot, not cold, just there. Logan didn't touch it. He didn't even breathe near it. He just stared, heart pounding, soul heavy. His mind raced with questions, but deep down he knew none of them mattered. Ruth wasn't just a girl. She was something more, a thread from his past, a test in the present, a whisper from the part of him that refused to die. For weeks he tried to find her. He sent out private investigators. He visited every shelter in the city, searched hospital records, asked every street kid if they'd seen her. None had. Some claimed they knew someone like her, a girl who lit up the pavement or drew things that moved when no one was looking, but no one could say where she was now. It was as if the moment her purpose ended, so did her presence. But her impact remained. Logan didn't just walk again, he lived again. He shut down 3 of his companies, sold his vacation homes, and turned his mansion into a rehabilitation center. He gave interviews but never mentioned her name, not once. Because something inside told him she wasn't meant for fame. She was meant for change. Word spread about the paralyzed millionaire who walked again. News anchors speculated. Doctors called it a medical miracle. But Logan knew the truth. And the truth was more powerful than science. Then, one stormy evening, a letter arrived at the center. No stamp, no return address. Just a folded piece of paper inside a blank envelope. It had a single sentence written in purple crayon. The miracle wasn't your legs, it was your heart. He folded the letter carefully and placed it in a glass frame. Hung it in the hallway right outside the patient garden, where he'd once watched her draw with chalk. The staff asked what it meant, and he always gave the same answer. It's a reminder. Years passed. The center flourished. Hundreds of lives were changed. But Logan never saw Ruth again, until one spring morning. He was sitting in the garden, watching the sunrise, when a small girl walked up to him. Not Ruth, but someone like her. Same calm in her eyes, same worn clothes. She held something in her hand, a broken necklace with a single purple shard. She told me to give you this, the girl whispered. Said you'd know what to do. He took the shard with shaking fingers. It pulsed, softly, just like before, and suddenly, he knew. This was never about him walking again. It was about what he'd walked toward. He stood, walked back into the center, and began the day like every other, helping, listening, healing. And on the wall beside the letter he added a new frame. This one had just 2 words. Still glowing.